Well, hello and a very warm welcome to Business Today TV. I am Chetan Bhutani. Maruti Suzuki has come out with its set of numbers, and I am joined by the chairman, Mr. R.C. Bhargava. Bhargav Stan, thank you so much for joining us at Business Today. Appreciate you joining us. The
Not
second
at all.
quarter shows strong exports to CSO to begin with, but yes, it does not factor in the delay in the gap caused due to the people deferring its purchase decisions. How do you infer the numbers going forward right now?
I think the numbers are reflective of what the market has been till the end of the last quarter. The change came place after the GST came in, but that was too late to influence the numbers for the second quarter of the year. I think the real impact of GST on numbers and growth and maybe margins is likely to happen from the third quarter onwards. So I think it is the numbers as were to be expected. Nothing very extraordinary either way.
Right. Bhargav sir, about 3.5 lakh bookings you have reported, about 80,000 small car bookings are there post the GST cut. How many are these firm deliveries, and do you expect these small car segment to now actually start to fly off? Because I remember when we spoke when the GST announcement cut came and you were very bullish on the small car segment, but is it now reflecting on the ground?
Well, as you've seen the numbers, the growth, the bulk of the growth which has happened since the 22nd of September in the market has been in the small car segment. Small car, I'm meaning the 18% GST segment. And two companies, Maruti and one other company, have gained market share out of this. And that has been driving the growth.
Right. And Bhargav sir, we were listening to you and you mentioned that the real growth would be coming in from the 18% segment of the GST vis-a-vis the 40%. And you also pointed out that about, the market share of the 18% GST is about 60, 65 odd percent, and it will further increase. So you mean that the 40% GST, which would actually means a lot of SUVs, would still be in demand from the 18% segment? That means mid-size SUVs would be in demand.
There are some SUVs which are in the 18% segment. Some are above the 18% segment. So there's the 18% segment vehicles will all get a boost.
Right. And of course, lowering tax rates also helps your production, and of course helps the government garner more, tax revenue. I want to ask you, the times are now changing with the GST cut. Are you also, flexing up to change and be more flexible when it comes to production, and of course adjusting the, the lines of production?
We've been working on making our production lines more flexible for some time. And I think the job has more or less been completed. And our production lines are much more flexible to adjust to different models because each line can make more than one model. And I think that change is going to help us now because we will be able to better adjust production to meet actual market demand.
Right. And also, Bhargav sir, is it applicable for all the auto sector now? Because now we see a complete change in tax structure for automobiles. Give us an outlook. Is all the automobile sector will now be ready to change and adjust according to changing timelines? I mean, what are you anticipating, sir?
Each company will have to see what it can do. It's not possible for companies which have never made small cars to suddenly get into the small car segment. And maybe they will have to adjust if they want to get any reasonable share of the Indian market.
Right. And also, Bhargav san, we saw exports numbers coming up very finely, and you had set a different target for exports. What are we targeting, and by how much time are you pushing for exports now, sir?
The target for this year is 400,000, which we will achieve and maybe exceed a little bit.
Okay.
The target going forward to 3031 was 750 to 800,000 cars.
Okay. And sir, those were my last two set of questions, of course. The first year of this year saw about growth of about 1.2 or degrowing at the same time. What growth are you expecting now in the second half? Because the real numbers will now be reflecting in the second half of the year. So what is the
Yeah. As far as Maruti is concerned, I'm expecting that in this 6-month period, October to March, this 18% segment should grow by around 10% a year, a month, I mean, overall. The 40% segment will not have much change from what it was doing, because there has been some slight improvement there also. It's not that it has not improved, but not to that extent. And overall, I think the car market in this next 6 months, instead of growing by the 2 to 3% which had been forecast, should get to 6 to 7%.
So that's a great outlook, sir. And last question, finally, with input costs, and launch spends right now coming up, you just launched the Victoris, and of course, we would see a heavy waiting time for the cars as well, because of course, the cars reaching the dealership will take time. I want to ask you, Bhargav Swan, is that those starting January and February, would there be any anticipation or any probability when cost of a vehicle could probably increase, because input costs are kind of not stable, right?
I am not at the moment in a position to say what is going to happen to prices from January or February. It's a little bit early. We have to still assess what's happening and how the market is behaving and what things are happening before any decision is taken.
And
but
lastly,
we don't want to negate the effects of the GST also.
Right, sir. And lastly, EVs versus battery operated vehicles versus feature rich cars, sir. What trend are you seeing on the ground? Do you also see that many two-wheeler owners now eventually shifting focus towards a four-wheeler because the cars have become affordable? And is there a pent-up demand for feature rich cars like ADAS and of course EVs? Your outlook, sir.
One of the objectives is, of course, that two-wheeler owners should shift to safer and more comfortable four-wheelers. But EVs are required to meet the environmental standards. And a feature-rich car by itself doesn't do that. So in that sense, because that is why EVs get only a 5% GST. So I think we'll have to keep working on the electric car. There are, of course, problems and there are difficulties which have to be met. And you've seen with China imposing various restrictions here and there. Electric cars are very much dependent on China. So there are problems there, but there's very little alternative.
Right. Right, Bhargav Sir, it's been a long day. We'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us at this.
Thank you.
And wishing you all the best, sir.
Thank you very much.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.